purpose of this video is to demonstrate doing a few simple statistical calculations using Excel, which is available to most people, either on their own personal computers, their school computers, or maybe their local library computers. We're going to look at the central tendency and dispersion or variation types of calculations. So for simplicity, I have used just 13 pieces of data, though you could use many more. And the more you have, the nicer it is to have some kind of program to manipulate the data for you. And there are many nice statistical packages out there, but this is just one that is available already to most people wanting to do a little bit of statistics. So the first thing, notice I have some sample ages here, 13 sample ages, and I know there's 13 because there's an age in the cell named A1 all the way through A13. So it's almost as if they're numbered for me. They are not in order. I can put them in order either by highlighting them, or since there's nothing below, I can just click on the A column, right click, and it will highlight the whole column. So whether you highlight the whole column or just the pieces that have data, this will work. I'm going to come over here and find this sort and filter. So see my cursor over in the upper right-hand corner. If I click on that, I have two options: sort from smallest to largest or largest to smallest. Not sure why when I do ages, I tend to do smallest to largest. If I do grades, I tend to do largest to smallest. It doesn't really matter which one you choose. I'm just going to pick smallest to largest for simplicity. And notice it puts them in order. This is nice because I can quickly figure out the mode. I have two 18s here. I have two 21s. Oh, look, I have three 22s. And that is the most frequent one. So my mode is 22. So I used the sort feature to help me find that quickly. There are 13. So that's an odd number. 13 divided by 2 is 6.5. So it should be after the 6 would be the median, or I can take the last 6 and notice up in the left, right above the A column, you see 6R times 1C, 6 rows times 1 column. It's actually counting how many I've highlighted. So it's the 7th one from the front or the 7th one from the back. Either way you look at it, the median of the sorted data is 22. Of course, if I had 14 values here, I could look at these two values and average them very easily. So we found the mode and the median. If you want to find the mid-range, it would be easy enough to average 18 and 42, either by hand or with a formula. I'm going to skip doing that one right here because that is so simply done by hand. But let's go ahead and look at the mean of the data. So for the mean of the data, we need to add the data up. And I can do that by highlighting and coming over here to the right. See the capital sigma and the word AutoSum, the Greek letter sigma. The capital one, the uppercase one, is often used for the word sum. And notice how when I mouse over it, the little pop-up says sum, automatically sum it up. So I am going to click on that, and it sums up and gives me the total of these 13 values is 311. Now 13 is our little n. Remember, little n is our sample size. These are sample ages. So there are 13 of them. I can go up here to the formula line and I actually see the equal sum a sub 1 to a sub 13. I could have typed that in, but having the little auto sum do it for me was helpful. I'm going to click right into that, and notice it highlights all the affected cells, and I can now put a slash. That's what we use for divide, and there are 13 of them, so I'm going to divide by 13, and that gives me the mean. Notice it's rounded it to the hundredths place. If I want to see how accurate Excel has actually done it, I can come up to the crack between the A and the B and double click, and notice it has actually rounded it much further out than first appeared. If you want, you can click on the column and click up here. You have the left justify, the center, and the right justify, and you can put that in the middle. So that's my mean, my sample mean, and I can go to the tenths if I want, 23.9, or to the nearest year if these are ages, 24, or as far out as Excel will let me go, which is this number of decimal places. Okay, now suppose I want to find the variance on the way to finding the standard deviation. We have two formulas for that, so I will do both of them. The first formula says to sum up the difference, the deviations from the mean squared. So in other words, I'm going to take each of the data values and subtract the mean from it. And then I'm going to square those and then sum them up. And because it's a sample, divide by one less than in the sample size. So I'm going to come into the first box and I'm going to say equal, because it's we always do for a formula. The data piece, so I'm going to click on the top data piece, minus, and so that I don't have to redo it, I'm just going to type in the average I see down there, 23.923076692. So I've just copied the number that I see down there, and it gives me that estimate. Again, I can click on this, double click, and get the whole thing if I want. But if I was happy the way it was before, I can go back. I don't really need these numbers, so I'm happy with just seeing this many. Now I'm going to click into the cell, and then I'm going to move my mouse until I see this dark plus sign. So notice I see this one with the arrows. That's if I want to make the columns wider or the rows taller. I can see this one if I want to drag something to somewhere else. And this one here in the corner, this little cross, is going to allow me to copy the formula in the form that it's in. So it will do the next lines. So I'm just going to left click and drag it down, and it will do the same thing. So notice this one is also 18. So notice it says A2 minus that same number. This one says A3, which happens to be a 20. And this one down here says A9, which happens to be 23. So it's taking whatever value in there and subtracting the mean from it. So this is the X minus X bar right here, the X minus X bar from the formula. Now it says we want to square that. So I'm going to put an equal sign. I have two ways. I can either do B times, now remember the time is a little asterisk, B, and that will square it. Or I can, instead of B times B1 times B1, I can put the caret, which is the little figure above the 6. We often use that for exponents in calculators and Excel, and put to the 2. So that is B1 squared. So this is almost 6, a negative 6. -6 times -6 is almost 36, so that makes sense. It's squaring this number. Again, I'm going to copy it all the way down so that I see all of those values squared. And now I'm going to add them up. So first I find the difference from the mean, I square those differences, and then I add them up. Now, because this is a sample, these were x minus x bars, then I'm going to divide by the sample size minus 1. My n, my sample size is 13. My n minus 1, my sample size minus 1 would be 12. So I'm going to go up to the formula bar. I'm going to put the division, and I'm going to put 12. So I am dividing by 12, 42.41. Again, I can double click and get that as a little more accurate if I want. That is my sample variance. So if these are ages in years, perhaps a sample of my statistics class, then this variance is approximately 42.4 square years. Of course, we don't like talking about square years, so we want to find the standard deviation. So I am going to put equal here again, like we always put the equal. And we want to do the square root. So the way we do that is SQRT. And notice it even comes up showing that description. I need to put a parenthesis. And what is it I'm finding the square root of? I don't want to type that whole number. I'm just going to click on that cell. And then I'm going to close the square root. So it's taking the square root of that number. And so now I have 6.512. And if I want that to be more accurate, I can make the cell wider with my double click. And approximately 6.5 years now is my standard deviation. So this is very useful, especially if I have a lot of data points. To use a calculator by hand and do this is a lot of work. So to have this do the whole thing is nice. Now, what if I want to use the other formula that I have? Just going to copy this one over here. And I'm going to sum them together. And I get 311. I'm going to square them. So I'm going to do equals that one to the 2 power. So square these numbers. So there are the sum of the x's. So this is the sum of the x's, 311. I'm going to sum these together. So this number is the sum of the x squareds. So the alternative formula for the sample variance is the sum of the x squareds minus the sum of the x's, that number squared, divided by n, the sample size, and that whole thing divided by n minus 1. So now I'm going to put that formula in here. I should get the same number I did over on the left. I need a parenthesis because I'm doing a numerator that has subtraction in it. I am summing the x squareds, and then from that I'm subtracting a little fraction, the sum of the x's, and squaring that and dividing by n. So what is the sum of the x squareds? That's this number right here, so I'm not going to type it. I'm just going to click into the cell, minus, and we'll put another parenthesis, because this is the sum of the x's. And I want to square that. So I'm going to use the caret, square that. So that's the sum of the x squareds minus now the sum of the x's, which gets squared, and then divided by the sample size, which is 13. That's the end of my numerator. So I'm going to close my parenthesis, and divide by the n minus 1. The n minus 1 in this case is 12. And notice I get the same exact number here for my sample variance. And of course, I could put the square root right here in order to find the standard deviation. Now notice if you have a lot more numbers, you might have to scroll down, but that's okay. You don't have to see them all. And I made these large, size 16, so you could see them on the video more clearly. Of course, you can make your size of your number smaller if you want to fit more of them on a page. So I can fit 10 of them on the page. I put size 10. And then I can make everything a little smaller here. So everything, I need to do it across everywhere. 10. There we go. And then I could see a lot more of them if I wanted to. All right. Go ahead and have fun doing some statistics using Excel.